What's going on, man?
Hey man, what's
Ha,
up?
good to see you again, man.
Yeah, it's good to see you. It's been a while.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, man.
I've been out in the woods somewhere.
That's awesome. Ha. So you last time we talked, man, like you were just feeling really called, man, really drawn to the forest, eh? Like the wilderness, bro.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Hmm.
I think I got really tired of all the technology and modern society and everything.
Hmm.
Yeah, I basically left more or less everything, like everything I own. I had in a backpack,
Hmm.
and I went to northern Sweden. I went like hiking around, and I went to visit these Sami people. They
Yeah.
are like the indigenous
Yeah.
people of northern Scandinavia,
Yeah. Kind of
and
like
I actually want to live with
yeah.
them, but
Yeah. They're kind of like
I
the
think
Inuit
because of
in Canada. Yeah.
yeah,
Sort of,
yeah,
or
bit similar,
okay. Yeah.
and yeah, I wanted to live with them for like a year or something, but it's really difficult because of Corona. That, for example.
So what was it like when you met with them? Like what are they doing? Are they living in like caves or something, or what are they doing?
No, so most of them are very modernized. Like they
Okay.
do have, more or less normal houses, and
Okay. Yeah.
they do live with the reindeer
Okay.
mostly.
Hmm.
But for the reindeer herding, like they do actually use snow scooters, and
Hmm.
even some people use helicopters even.
No way.
So it's very very modern. It's really not this
Okay.
natural
Yeah.
lifestyle.
So they're like have TV and they're using like cell
Yeah,
phones
yeah,
and
for
everything.
sure,
Yeah.
for
Okay.
sure.
Yeah. Okay. So it wasn't what you expected.
No, I mean, I might have had a very
Yeah.
romanticized view of
Yeah.
that, maybe.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think there's this Zen koan,
Hmm.
the Zen Buddhist
Hmm.
sayings like, there's this one man, he wants to leave his village for another village, and he meets a man on the road and asks him, how are the people in this other village?
Hmm.
And the man asks him that, well, how were the people in your
Hmm.
village?
Hmm.
No,
Hmm.
it was all, you know, terrible. And then
Hmm.
the man says that, well, it's the same over there. And
Man. Yeah,
it
dude.
doesn't end here, because then another traveler comes and meets the same man on the road, and he also wants to move to another village.
Hmm.
And the man also asks him that, well, how were people in your village? And he says that, oh, everyone was wonderful and everything was great. And, well, that's how this other village also is. So I think it's really not about the place so much. It's really about you and your perspective of things.
Yeah, dude, 100%, man. And it's like it's a really a hard lesson too, because like it's like you really cannot escape, like you cannot escape yourself, and it's like when you it's almost what makes it hard because you kind of think it must be with the Sami people way up in the north.
Mm-hmm.
Surely they are living this pure life, but you go up there and you find out, you know what? They're all still on Instagram and they're all still gossiping about their neighbors, and it's just the nature of reality. And it's like, it's like, it's like there's a story about like this guy who went to see a Zen monk, and he became like a disciple of this Zen monk, and then he started to find out after a while the Zen monk would sneak out and have a cigarette once in a while,
Oh.
and then he found out that the Zen monk had a girlfriend, and then he
Mm.
found out the Zen monk actually had two girlfriends, and then he was arguing and fighting
Oh.
with them, because the thing is, if that Zen monk didn't smoke cigarettes, if he didn't have a girlfriend, if he didn't have two girlfriends, if he didn't drink a little bit of whiskey once in a while, he would cease. He would stop to even manifest as a human being.
Yeah.
Why bother? Why not just go back into the ether and be just God again? Because
Yeah.
nothing and no one here on earth is like 100% zen and perfect. We're a super messy fucking organism. And it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. No, that's true for sure. I think there are some merits for sure in maybe, well, Zen Buddhism or, the Sami people, like they do for sure live
for sure.
closer to nature than us.
Yeah, yeah.
I think just north generally, like people are much more friendly generally. Like it's a nicer atmosphere. I like it more, but again, it's very personal.
Yeah.
Like it's just a matter of opinion, really.
Totally. Yeah, and there's always like benefits to those things too. It's like no one's saying that like downtown London is like more friendly than like rural Sweden way up in the north. They probably are more friendly up there. They probably are more open, and probably they are more. So if you're coming from downtown London, maybe it's a good idea to go for a little break up to northern Sweden. But it again doesn't mean that you can escape all things. I'm not saying that's even what you're trying to do, but because everybody has that feeling, oh, this next girlfriend will be perfect, will be better. This next job will be better, but it's always something, man.
Yeah, I guess like relationships is also another thing that people try to like say that, oh, this is gonna fix my problems, but it's really you have to do it on your own.
That's like the easy. That's like the most common one, man. Isn't that the most common one? Like, and it's hard.
Probably.
Yeah, man. And like it's so hard when you finally like get those things, and it doesn't solve everything. Life is dynamic, isn't it? Life is a very dynamic. It's messy too. It's so messy and so dynamic, and it's a struggle, and that's everywhere, and you got to embrace that, eh? Like that's what it's like the more we can embrace that, it's just we're like, oh, this is how it works. You just work really hard, you kill a reindeer, you skin it, you put it on the fire, you have some babies, and that's your life. You're a human being.
Yeah, no, that's true. I think we really have to just, in many ways, accept the world as it is, and embrace things. And I don't think it's about excluding anything, but it's really about including more and more into your, acceptance into your life.
Yeah,
and, even spiritually, like another thing with the Sami people is because, well, they were original practitioners of shamanism, and that's also why I wanted to go there. But I think now also most of them have like turned Christian basically or something, and I think they are not maybe practicing shamanism so much more either. So I don't
Yeah,
know. I think there was a good learning experience for sure.
totally, man. It is too. Like sometimes, like it's like sometimes that like Wall Street banking guy, like sometimes he needs to make $20 million. Sometimes he needs to make that money so that he can really be faced with the cold hard fact that it didn't solve the problem.
Yeah,
He needed that $20 million in his bank account. He needed a Rolls Royce. He needed Rolex watches. He needed a giant penthouse in Manhattan because he it took all that for him to finally see like there's nothing else I can get, man. I've got the best of everything, and it still didn't fix whatever it was. The time my brother bullied me, the time I didn't make the fucking hockey team, it still didn't
yeah,
fix that. And it's like that's okay, man. If you need all that, that's okay. That's cool.
yeah, totally. And well, I think in another video we talked about the three vinegar tasters. If you remember that story,
What was it?
you remember the three vinegar tasters?
I think I saw that on the video you sent me. Is that tree?
No, 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 no.
No.
I'm talking about the. It's like a Chinese motif.
Oh, okay.
Uh, we talked about it on another video, but I can
Okay.
just go over it
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
So it's like three wise men, and they are tasting vinegar.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
And then these three men are supposed to represent Confucius,
Okay.
Buddha, and then Lao Tzu.
Okay. Yeah.
So Confucius is of the opinion that it's very we should improve the vinegar.
Okay.
We should make it taste better.
Yeah.
And then Buddha says that, well, it's also very bitter, but life is just suffering. Like it's just how it is. But then Lao Tzu actually says that, oh, it's perfect. In the way it is, like it tastes amazing. So I think all of these perspectives are correct in some way, and I think we have to learn to accept everything, but also sometimes you have to maybe you can change something a little bit.
Yeah. There is like an element.
Like it's kind of both.
Yeah, it is. It is. Isn't that weird? Again, there's so much duality to life. There's so much nuance. Like, it's like they're all kind of right. Like, of course, Lao Tzu is right. Like, oh, it's just vinegar. There it is. It's like his taste buds register the fact that the vinegar registers as bitter. So he does know that. He does accept that as reality. Whereas Confucius, he also tastes it. And he also registers it's bitter. And he's like, we should improve it. That's fine. And then the Buddha tastes it. And he says, what did he say again?
Well, he also says that it's very bitter, but that sort of life is just suffering. Like this is just what it is.
Right. So he sort of tasted it and like he justified it. He didn't want to change it. He said, it's okay. I justify it. And Lao Tzu just said, this is it. So they all kind of took their own approach, right? Like, yeah, I do remember that story actually after you told it, but isn't that weird?
Yeah, I think in the last video we also made an example that maybe if it was so bad actually that it's sort of poisonous, then you really have to do something about it,
and it's a call to action too. It's like you don't just sit there and it's like it's like you could be eating like rotten food. It's like some guy sitting there eating rotten food like, oh, it's okay. And it's like, no, dude, it's rotten for a reason. Like you shouldn't. So there's always this like
do you know it's a Hindu sect, they are called Agori.
I haven't heard of them, but
Yeah, they are quite famous. So they actually are of this opinion, maybe sort of like Lao Tzu in a way that everything is divine, so we should just accept everything. So they actually just eat like rotten food and I think even like shit and like everything.
what?
And I know they are cannibals as well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's
And I
all.
don't know. They don't really seem maybe like the best role models either. So
And it's all an interesting. It's all valid, They're all like valid points of view, Like
yeah,
it's the person who's mindless about things that is the real problem. That person who just doesn't want to investigate anything ever and just it's like, and that's kind of our society. Like that's the mainstream society. It's just like, don't question anything. Just go, just go to your job, work your job, get the new car, get the new house, da 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 da. Watch the TV, watch the sports, and that there is concerning. It's the person who just because they're not even like Zen. That guy's not even Zen. He's just a robot, and that's what we have. That's what our society is producing. It's just robots,
yeah, yeah.
you know, like so. All right. Anyway, should we do you want to have a move into a different topic here? I got a few ideas.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Like, we are already on this topic of perspective.
Okay.
So, I don't know. Did you watch the video I made?
The one that you sent me?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
that and you talked about I also watched the first video that you put out. So that one that you sent, what was that about again? You had that tree with different outlooks on it, and you talked about there was also like the chakra. You had the chakra system there.
Yeah, well, I used a bunch of different
Yeah.
systems like the
Mm.
chakras and Kabbalah and astrology
Mm.
and the Bible
Mm-hmm.
and shamanism,
Mm-hmm.
But really, my point is that they are all really the same thing. They are just different perspectives on the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I was basing this video of a biblical story, which is the vision of Ezekiel
Mm-hmm.
in the Old Testament.
Mm-hmm.
So this guy is like in the desert, with some drugs, and he has this vision of these like angels and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he sees this sort of we call it a tetramorph.
Oh
So
right,
it's like
yeah.
a sphinx, and it has 4 heads,
Mm-hmm.
and one head is of a lion,
Mm.
one head is of a bull, one head is of a man, and one head. And this is a very important motif later on in the Bible because this represents the 4 Gospels
Mm.
in the
Mm.
Bible. So this would be the Gospel of Matthew would be the lion,
Mm.
because the lion is like a very majestic animal. It's the king of beasts.
Mm.
And he describes Jesus as like a king.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then I believe the Gospel of Mark would be the human, because he focuses on the humanity of Christ, like Christ as a human being. And then you have Luke, who is the ox, and well, he focuses on the sacrifice of Christ. And historically, the ox has been a sacrificial animal. And then you have John, who I believe is the eagle, and he has a nickname for John is actually the eagle of Patmos. So it's very obvious, actually. but he sort of sees things in a very divine perspective. So it's sort of like the ego that sees everything from above, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then the really interesting thing is that if you know astrology, you know the lion is Leo, obviously, which is the fire element. The man is Aquarius, which is the air element. The ox is Taurus, which is the earth element. And then the eagle is Scorpio, actually, which is the water element, because Scorpio is actually, it's like an evolution where it becomes an eagle and a phoenix. And this corresponds to the 4 elements, you know. And if you look at the shaman wheel, like the shaman drums, the medicine wheel, it's actually, I mean, it's literally a cross. First and foremost, it's right. Just literally a cross. And it describes the 4 directions and the 4 elements. And every direction is associated with an element, and this is associated with some larger ideas. Like water element is south, and it's emotions, and it represents the past, you know. And then the west will be earth element, the present moment. The north will be air element, the future, and the east will be fire element and sort of beyond time. So they all represent these different perspectives on the world. And it's the same how the 4 Gospels describe Christ in different ways. Right? And then you have the 5th element.
Yeah, the
actually,
ether.
Which is it's ether.
Yeah.
Right? But this element is invisible, so we can't see it in the world. And this is known as the sort of spiritual element, like it's what connects us to the divine. It's the invisible element. So, and basically to get to ether, you have to first understand the 4 visible elements. You have to make this journey around the medicine wheel, right? Which is also a cross. And similarly, to really understand Christ, which I believe is the ether, is the same thing. Christ, ether, same thing. You have to read the 4 Gospels, which are the 4 elements. Right? Is it?
Yeah.
And you know Avatar, the Last Airbender.
Yeah, I noticed you had that in there. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's a great show, and it really represents this sort of shamanic journey of learning the 4 elements, and when this main character has learned the 4 elements, he reaches this avatar state, which is this very divine state where he can connect with his past selves and all this, and that's the ether, that's the 5th element.
And that's
the enlightenment.
Yeah, and that's it, right? It's like when you and you've given like a couple different ways to look at it, like the Christian way to look at it, the medicine wheel, the cabal, like these different ways to look at it. But like when you can handle like these different aspects of reality or like of your life, like for example, another one is, I'm not sure if you read the book, I think it's King, Warrior, Magician, Lover.
Yes,
right?
That's great.
So that's a cool book, and that's talking about just like archetypes of a person, kind of. And it's a similar idea. It's like when you can get these things all in alignment, and it's like, oh, you're not too much warrior, you're not too much lover, like you balance them out. Like that's when you are in alignment with like the ether or with God or with the universe, and the ether can come out through you. And that's where you're kind of like in the zone. That's where you're kind of like in this like effortless state. And it's really a weird thing. It's like such a weird muscle, like to work out. It's like the muscle of getting into alignment. It's like, it's a very like strange muscle. It's almost like flexing your earlobes or something. This like
Mm.
feels so weird because like it's like it feels like it almost feels like weakness. Do you know what I mean? To like relinquish control, it kind of feels like weakness in a strange way. But it's
Yeah.
crazy because you're actually accessing strength. It's fucking strange, bro.
Yeah, and I really think this is kind of the key to everything. Like you connect to, well, God basically, and
Mm.
when you do that, it's kind of that we are like leaves, and we can be sort of self-sufficient in a way because we can take up sunlight
Mm.
or whatever, but we are really supposed to be connected to the tree,
Yeah.
And give things to the tree. But if you make that connection, you can also get much, much more back.
Mm. Mm.
You can get all kinds of things from the tree as well.
Mm. Mm.
And that's really what we are supposed to do. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just very, very obvious.
Yeah, and that's where like we aren't that's that's where we aren't like interfering with other people's lives too, right? It's like
Yeah,
when you were dealing with all those things, those elements, and you put yourself in more alignment, you don't try to interfere with someone else. You don't try to gossip about someone else. You're not mean to someone else because that's just putting you out of alignment again. And so
yeah,
it really is true. Like if we could all follow like whatever you want to call it, like God's path or like the way of enlightenment or the Tao, whatever, it really is true that we would slowly come into alignment and there would be less and less and less conflict. There would be less and less poverty. There would be less and less violence and anger. There really would, because we'd each slowly be getting into alignment and out of conflict with other people, and we'd be in harmony with the universe. I'm not saying people would still die, it would still be unfortunate, because the cycles of life still happen.
yeah,
But it would be in alignment. It'd be like, oh, here comes winter. Of course, winter's still dreary and kind of cold, but it's part of a larger cycle. Oh, here comes spring. You know?
yeah. And it's sort of about being in alignment with your true self, really, like your authentic self. And um, yeah, I think this is a main point of Heidegger. If you know, Heidegger is a German philosopher, and he talked about this concept of Dasein, which means being, more or less. It's a bit complex because that's a very abstract word, being. But like most people, just fall in line with culture
Yeah.
and society and all this, and they don't really express their true being.
Right.
And that the whole point of life is really to be able to express your true being, and that's the alignment, really.
Yeah, and like
It's to be.
yeah, and culture, like our culture and our society, like it's really not constructed for you to like achieve like your enlightened purpose and your like zen well-being. It's a system that's built upon like capitalism and consumerism and like taxation. I'm not even saying these things are bad. Like I'm not even saying that like capitalism is bad. Like I'm not a communist at all. I'm just saying it pays to be aware that that's the current system we are living in. Like the Western society is like a materialist, consumerist, capitalist, like democratic to a degree society. And so you just open your eyes and be like, oh, okay, that's the game I'm playing right now. All right. I accept that.
Yeah.
Now, how can I work with it within that, right?
Yeah, we really have to accept that as well, I think. And sort of the same thing with technology, which, has its ups and downs. But like it's still great to have technology. Like it's very neutral thing. Like it's just that we are sort of maybe misusing it in many ways. But that's us.
Yeah, it's like it's like kind of just like, and again, it's all just kind of like scenery. It's just kind of like scenery to the experience. It's like, oh, okay, here we are. It's a capitalist consumerist society. It's like, oh, interesting. We have access to laptops and social media and stuff. Like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Like, yeah, it can be kind of cool to like contact Klaus like just instantaneously over WhatsApp. That's kind of cool. Cool that we can talk like this. It's like, oh, it can also just be used to like gossip and be mean to people and spend all your time comparing yourself to others. Like, oh, that's probably not as good. Like,
yeah, I think it's interesting that you said that it's sort of a backdrop, because I think why we are here. It's really more complex lessons. It's sort of about evolving our spirit, or again, which I explained, to be in alignment with the authentic self, the Dasein. And really, this is kind of it's just the backdrop for this. Like it could be anything. It could be any timeline.
Yeah.
Like we could even not be human. It could be anything, but I think it's in King Lear, the Shakespeare play. There's a quote that the world's but a stage. All the men and women are only players. And I have gone very, very far in the sort of shamanic realm. And I mean, I very much know that this really is just like a holographic simulation, basically.
Man.
And it's really not the point. It's the stage itself. Like that's not the point, really.
It's like, actually, this is very interesting. This is actually a good little topic there, because you're right. Like, speaking about these things as a backdrop, just like some scenery, like Western civilization, like some like social media, like even just human to human, like people living on the planet in this age, in this time, on even a planet and a physical being. Like, it's like, man, we are just so much similar to our ancestors who were in a cave 100,000 years ago. And the larger important like mechanisms of reality or something, or like the like movements of God, are like so powerful, like underlying all these things. And here we are, just like, like here we are, like you're right, there's a lot more going on for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And because I've been like really so invested in the notion that this is real, and especially like climate change and all this. And, we have to save the planet and all this. I've been like so invested in this, with my university degree and everything, But it's really just this stage, like it's just
it's so
hologram. It's not the point. It's not the point to save the Earth. Like it's
not really.
It's
there
really is no Earth even. Like it's when we die, it's all gonna just disappear. Really.
And it's like it's like you can still work towards saving the planet. Like
Sure.
that's still okay, and that's still nice. And the planet would still wants to survive. The planet still enjoys growing trees and stuff. But you're right. It's like there's an entire like reality that's kind of, I don't even know, like beyond the veil. Like it's through a different dimension of what we're seeing here, and it's so strange because what our reality is like kind of totally inconsequential to that other reality. Like it's just mechanisming itself along, and it's like it's crazy. It's like, yeah, man.
Yeah, yeah, no. And another thing I sort of understand is like basically there's like an infinite amount of, we could call, parallel universes.
Yeah, yeah,
And basically you are actually switching between these
yeah,
sort of all the time, like
yeah,
every second, basically.
yeah.
And every universe is different, so
Mm,
there's no reason to be so attached to this
uh,
this idea that there's just this one earth, there's this one life, this one world,
mm.
because there's an infinite number of worlds, really.
But this is interesting too, like because like God does seem to like genuinely sort of like love us. God does seem to like genuinely like enjoy like creating this reality and creating these worlds and expanding. And like
Of course.
God does seem to be like, no, this is awesome. Like be successful in your life. Like
Yeah.
paint a beautiful picture. Like build a business, have a family, get a bunch of girlfriends, make a bunch of money. Like God seems to be like, that's awesome. But at the same time, it's also just like, yeah, but there's like this entire other reality going on too that you guys don't even know about. So it doesn't really matter
Yeah.
what you guys do.
Yeah. Well, the question of God is also quite tricky, of course.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's also that really, in a way, everything is God. Like
Yeah,
just everything,
yeah,
literally everything, and
yeah,
it's really that. Again, we talked about these different systems like Christianity or shamanism, or even some TV shows like Avatar, and like they are all complete. Like all of these systems are complete views of reality.
yeah,
And at some point, you realize that everything is like this. Like everything is complete. Yeah. And you could take literally some dust off the floor, or like and analyze it, and you see just this perfect atoms and molecules and everything, and like even a pile of feces, like it's gonna grow into a tree or something. It's like eternal, it's everything.
It's like the Fibonacci sequence, that sequence of numbers. Like it just manifests itself over and over again all the time. And that's God again in a pine cone, in the clouds, in a water molecule. Yeah. And so God is just this endless reproduction of itself. And I don't know, man. It's like human beings, we seem to be this like very like, I don't know, we seem to be this like really kind of like interesting, like I don't know if I'd say special, but like we're this kind of like interesting, like rock star sort of species that I think even God is like, holy fucking hell, human beings are fucking nuts, bro. Like we seem to be that way,
Yeah, it's a bit of an experimental design, maybe.
Yeah, maybe, right? Like you
But
yeah,
the really interesting thing here is then to think that if God is reflected in everything, it's also in us, you know,
yeah,
and it's in some way that there is a higher God, whatever, which created this. It's more like a fractal,
mm,
and the center of the fractal will be closer to the source.
yeah,
But it's always like expanding and
yeah,
creating more fractals.
yeah,
So we are just one fractal, and we will also create then more fractals later on.
mm,
So as I see it, we are actually supposed to grow up to become gods ourselves.
mm.
And in some way, we already are.
Yeah,
We already are God, essentially.
yeah. We do seem to have the seed. Like we have the seed of God within us, certainly, and we can become more God-like, more like Zen, more enlightened. We do have the capacity to do that, and like it shows up in strange ways, and like it's we like I said about the Zen monk who had a couple girlfriends and smoked cigarettes and drank whiskey. Like it's possible. It's like this is kind of how it works as a human being. Like so, yeah, man, and you know,
But so you may not have reached this point yet, but I have, and it's like people like Buddha, for example, like
mm,
Buddha is just a title really, and it just means someone that has awakened.
mm,
Um, the question is, what has he awakened to?
mm,
And as I said, he has just awakened to the fact that he actually is God, really.
mm. Yeah, man.
Like, and it's not really the human person per se, but it's the awareness which is inside the person.
Mm. Yeah, and like
Like you are really this awareness which is observing the
yeah,
body, and you are observing your thoughts, and
yeah,
this awareness is really God. Actually, it's really this eternal,
yeah,
universal awareness.
yeah, and we're at the same time we're also like these like primate like monkey tribal organisms. We're
Mm.
also like very much a human being. Like we're little tiny primate monkeys who gather in little tribes of like 150 people, and we get together and like we hunt and we like reproduce, and then we sing songs around a campfire, and it's like that's God. Like
Mm.
that's God manifesting itself as this little tribal organism, human beings, and he's just that's what he's doing. And it's like that's kind of our
Yeah,
part to play. It's like it's quite absurd, but it's like yeah, it's fucking crazy.
yeah, it is. But you know, when we think about this description of God as some, the big man in the sky which creates, and well, in the Bible, it's sort of described that God creates ex nihilo, which means out of nothing.
Mm,
So it's just pure thought, really. It is not like using some material things
right,
like a painting or
right,
something.
right.
But when we also understand this, it's also that we are actually doing this all the time.
Yeah,
Like we are actually all collectively creating this experience
yeah,
ourselves. Like we are actually manifesting this
mm,
entire experience into existence through our thoughts.
mm,
And So this is really, really strange, but you really have to experience this firsthand
Mm.
to really understand and believe. But I'm curious, are you familiar with this idea of manifestation, law of attraction,
Yeah,
all
yeah,
this?
yeah,
It's sort of new age,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
often,
yeah.
but it really is true.
I
Like
know, I know.
it really is true.
That's actually, believe it or not, that is how I very, very first got interested in this type of stuff. Yeah, probably like over 10 years ago, I read
Oh yeah,
I read The Secret, the book The Secret. And it's, a lot of people hate on that book, and some people like it, and like, look, it's a very introductory book about this type of stuff, and it's a little bit
yeah,
glamorized, and like Oprah kind of got a little
yeah,
carried
yeah,
away with it. Like I agree with all that, but the actual like fundamental principle, it actually is true. And like when I first read that, it's just thinking about things like, rather than be like, oh fuck, like, like I hope I get a parking space. It's like, no, in the moment, change that thought. I'm gonna find a parking space.
yeah.
And that kind of like fundamental shift over time, it actually does create change in your life, and it actually can manifest a new type of life. And there's a lot of truth to that stuff. And so all those years ago when I first read that, and I was coming from a very like kind of negative, confused place. So when I first heard that and read that, I was like, okay. And it was hard to get any momentum going, but I kept reading more books about that, and I kept looking into it more and more. And like, if you can really build that up and get momentum, things do start to come together, and you do get more into alignment with synchronicity and God.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
fucking crazy.
yeah. No, it really is true, and like I think it's more than just a psychological thing.
Yeah.
Like because I have really seen this really happen in a very real way, and an experiment you can make to prove this to yourself is just to try to manifest a like actual physical object. So
Mm-hmm.
you can actually try some like an orange
Yeah.
ball or like a
Yeah.
specific feather or
Yeah.
something,
Yeah.
and you can really like create this object in your mind and
Mm-hmm.
really focus on it, and you can really try in all kinds of ways to get it to manifest. You can like write in a
Mm-hmm.
journal that I will see this happen. You tell yourself before you sleep that this will happen. And if you do this in a really correct way, it will actually happen.
Yeah.
And that's and when it happens, like there's no doubt about it that you
Mm-hmm.
have actually made
Mm-hmm.
this happen.
Yeah. And it's like a little bit of like a,
And it's just with thoughts,
yeah.
just with your belief
Yeah.
about reality. Like
Yeah.
it changes
It
everything
does.
literally on a physical level.
Yeah. And it's like, it's like in a way it's kind of like that, what you just described, like picturing an orange, and then the next day you find an orange bowl or whatever. In a way it's kind of like a little like parlor trick. It's kind of just like a little trick that is kind of illuminating this larger reality, this larger principle. Like it's almost like um, telekinesis, or like telepathy,
Yeah,
especially in like a ayahuasca ceremony. You just can see that something like telepathy or telekinesis, it's just so matter of fact. It's just so obvious that it's kind of just becomes like irrelevant. It's like you wouldn't even bother like trying to like be like I can read minds now and like track down minds to read and stuff. It's just
Yeah.
like it just shows you like no, that's part of it, but it's not like let's not really bother focusing on that. It's not really a good use of your time. It's like little like stray thoughts are going around. It's like yeah, you can kind of see those and you can kind of connect and communicate, but it's like there's a bigger picture at play. I mean that's kind of what I've seen.
Yeah. I think there's a Hindu saying that when you look in the mirror, you see what you have thought about the past like 5 years or something. Yeah, like obviously the Hindus and the Buddhists and all these, like they really understand this idea that really everything is mind or consciousness, really. And I think when you understand this, then it becomes very important to really think positive thoughts, like because you will also notice that some negative thoughts can also manifest. So it then becomes very important to investigate your own thought patterns, your emotions, like how do you really think about things, and what do you give your energy to. And you also do this through speech. And what do you focus on, like what do you watch, or what do you listen to, like all this is very important. And again, if you look at this from for example the Bible, and we understand that we are like mini gods in some way, at least, like the first moment of creation is just, it's ex nihilo, it's just through pure like just essence, just pure spirit, And then the second thing would be the word, actually, because God actually speaks that let there be light, right? So it's the word. And then later on, I think it's the breath. It's actually, I think God sort of breathes out the word, sort of. And then obviously our thoughts and mental images and all of this. And we really literally, all of us together, we create actually this entire physical reality together with our consciousness.
Yeah.
And it's just what we believe.
Yeah, absolutely. It's what we like. It's what we agree upon that makes sense. It's like as a society, we agree that it makes sense to have like like nuclear weapons stationed all over the world aimed at each other. And we just agree that spending like like $500 billion a year in America anyway, we just agree that makes sense. $500 billion on weapons and tanks and everything. It's like, yep, that's reality. We agree. Fine. And the trick of it all, and this is nothing against the military. It's great to serve your country. It's great, but it's just this is the narrative that we're selling. This is the narrative that our society is really just built upon to sell. It's almost like that's almost all the society's point really is. Let's just construct a narrative where it makes sense to spend $500 billion on the military and the rest is cool. We don't care. And that's kind of all it is. Like the highest level of the like elites, whatever you want to call it, the kind of the industrial complexes that are underlying our society. That's like, they're like, look, as long as we get our $500 billion and you guys all agree it makes sense to build tanks and nuclear weapons, We don't really care what you guys do. It's just like it's like almost that simple.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Do you know the Steve Jobs biography?
I know his story a little bit. I haven't seen the movie or I haven't read a book about him now, but
Oh no, but so Steve Jobs, he actually went to this ashram in India.
okay.
He stayed there for like a week or something, I think. But he was there. He really learned this concept about how beliefs create reality, and when he started to become more successful, he actually bought a lot of stock in Disney,
Really?
and he was one, and he helped to found Pixar with that.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And this is because he understood that the storyteller has the most power in the world. Because the media that we consume is gonna make us think in certain ways, and then those beliefs and those lines of thinking are gonna, literally manifest in the world.
That's true.
I mean, anyone can understand this, but like with the spiritual perspective, it's like very literal. Like it's literally going to construct that entire reality.
Yeah, and like like and Disney creates an environment where it makes sense to like I like personally I don't even really like to watch like a new like whatever the newest Disney movie is. I'm sure it's awesome. I'm sure like the new Toy Story movie, like I'm sure it's awesome. I'm sure the animation is incredible. I bet you the story is awesome. I bet you for 2 hours it's an incredible movie. But I almost like won't let myself watch it in a way because I almost just don't want that narrative like seeping into my life. Like I just don't want that coming in. I just in a way,
Yeah, of course, I understand, and I mean, you should avoid the news.
Oh
like
yeah,
the pest,
that's poison. Like, how do people fuck?
But listen, man. Have you seen Frozen 2?
No.
Dude, you have to watch it. It's amazing.
It probably is.
It's about the Sami people.
Is it actually okay? It probably is awesome.
Yeah, it's about that's like a fucking enlightened movie. It's like shamanic even.
That's sick.
In nature.
That's sick.
Yeah, and it's so obvious that they are trying to awaken people to this shamanic reality.
Good.
With these movies.
Good.
Yeah. And well, I guess I can spoil, Frozen.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it.
Spoiler alert. Yeah.
But like, there's this. She's sort of like a shaman or wizard, I guess, and she has to like make this shamanic journey, sort of to the past or something, and it's literally that she comes to understand that I am the fifth element. Like they literally say that you are the fifth element. Like I am the fifth element. And of course, the fifth element is ether, which we talked about. So it's literally is that you have the power, like you have all the power in your own life because you are creating your own life. Like literally, it's like literally magic. Like you are creating everything. You are the fifth element. You are the ether. And this is in fucking Frozen 2. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's like weird too. Like it's weird how we can like have these like we're like a species that have kind of been like programmed to kind of like we can like have these truths right in front of us, but yet we just don't act on them. It's like how many people saw Frozen? Literally probably like 50 million people or like 100 million people, like maybe more. Like it was probably 100 million people saw that movie. And it's like they all got that same message of like, hey, like you are the fifth element, like you are the ether, you are God. They all got that message. But the funny thing is that like all they really did with it was just go and buy like some frozen like paraphernalia, like some frozen action figures, or they went to McDonald's to get like a frozen cup, like a frozen like movie, collected
Oh
three
yeah,
movie
really.
frozen movie cups or something, like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like that's how funny it is. Like all these corporations and stuff, like they're willing to like use anything to like drive their products in your door, like it's pretty wild.
Of course. I mean, even I would argue like religions are like this. Like they have literally taken all these ideas and just made it into like some power and money thing, basically. And it's really insane.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's
But it's also up to each person because there's really no excuse to not know because it's so obvious. And I guess in the Bible, it's like seek and you shall find, right?
yeah, totally.
But you have to seek first. You have to be open to it and seek it.
And it's all like hidden
But
in,
you can find it anywhere,
yeah,
anywhere.
and it's all like hidden in plain sight. But like our our society is just it just does such a good job of like you mentioned the news, like man, sometimes like I once in a while I was like I would never turn the news on. I don't even know how to operate a TV anymore. It's crazy. But once in a while it's like I'll be like at the dentist or something and they'll have the TV on. I'm sitting there and the TV's on in the background, so I'm like, okay, I guess I have to watch it. And when I hear it, like I'm so far removed from that now, it almost feels like I almost think like it's like a joke. Like I almost sometimes think I'm watching like Saturday Night Live or like a parody. It's almost I feel like it's
Yeah,
someone making fun of what the news is. But it actually is the news. Like that's actually the product they're selling. And it's like so absurd that you think there's no one who's buying this. There can't possibly be anyone who's swallowing this stuff, but they are. It's like they have no respect for their audience. Like they just have
yeah,
no respect for their fucking for the population. They're just like these people are so dumb. We can just like shove it right in their face and they'll swallow it. It's absurd.
yeah. And it's really about selling like what things people want to hear, maybe, and it's very fear based. It is very negative
Mm.
news always. I have noticed. So it's really, I think, keeping people's consciousness low. It's keeping people in fear, in a low vibration, so to say.
Mm.
And it does seem that there are like some people and organizations at the top which do this deliberately
Why not?
because they don't want people to wake up, right?
Yeah, it's like why not? Why not just keep them all kind of stunned and then you can sell them products, you know what products they're gonna like. And it's a funny thing, man. It's like a funny time to be alive and it's like a funny it's absurd. We live in the most absurd of times, but it's also like the most hilarious. Like it's the most like hilarious times to be alive and like it's just so wild. Like you can like sit here and like you and I can communicate over Skype or whatever and we got access to YouTube and we can learn the most incredible things and we've got all the greatest books and like free podcasts and it's like amazing the knowledge we can turn ourselves onto and the best food and the best supplements and it's like at the very same time like at the very same time like the entire system is like falling apart. It's just nuts.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious we are going through some very big changes, you know, and it is really not gonna go back to how it was before. Like it's gonna be very different.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But again, I really wouldn't even give the power to the outside world in
Right.
any way. Like that's in some sense, it is really still about you, you know, like yourself, which we talked about in the beginning. Like it's still about your consciousness and your own evolution.
Yeah.
And it's really just backdrop, you know.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And the more you focus on improving yourself and growing your consciousness, the less interested you are in that stuff. Like you just in that other stuff. Like you just naturally don't watch the news. Like you just naturally like don't want to be around that. You don't want to be consuming the, like Coca-Cola and alcohol and retarded pills and hanging out with negative people and gossiping. Like you just think like okay, like that's what you're gonna do with your life. Like all right, like I hope more people get turned on to this, but
Yeah, and like when you really understand this in some sense that you are in a way God, or you are on your way to become a God, you know, then and that you are sort of creating everything in a way, then you're not gonna give power to the outside world that this controls how I feel and think, you know, because the power is really within you. Like there's nothing outside you which has power.
right, right, yeah, no, and they,
Only if you give it power.
yeah,
Only if you give it energy and focus.
yeah, and that's back to all the way back to The Secret, where it does pay to start to build up that muscle of controlling your thoughts. Like, nope, nope, don't want that. And
Yeah.
if you really get that muscle built up, that's a lot of power. You have a lot of power. And I noticed in I think it was the other video I watched of yours. I think it was your first one where you talked about coronavirus, and you were just
Yeah.
saying like, to me, it doesn't even exist. And
Yeah.
I agree with that. I resonate with that. Like, I don't even. It's like it doesn't. I don't even comprehend how that could be even possible. Like, what are you even talking about? Like, that's not going to affect me. It's got nothing to do with me. Like, I don't even understand how that even exists. And you're right. It's crazy for someone else to hear that, but I agree with that.
Yeah, I'm not giving into, you know, the fear
Me neither.
narrative or to the idea that this should control us. I still think that the things that we experience in the world, they are like lessons in some way. They are significant, and they also reflect ourselves. So we should also, you know, learn something from it, but it doesn't mean, you know, to give power to it, especially not to give power to fear.
And that's what so much of this whole thing is based on. Like it's just a big, it's like, oh, all of a sudden, like all these corporations and the government systems, all of a sudden they're really concerned about my well-being, are they? All of a sudden, yeah, all of a sudden after they polluted the food system, dumped junk into the media, dumped junk into the oceans, it created all these ridiculous systems and industries to churn me up, to churn the civilization, churn the people up. It's like, oh, all of a sudden, all of a sudden, we're really concerned about you guys. We don't want you guys to catch a cold, catch the flu.
Oh, yeah.
Let's rearrange everything. And by the way,
and we don't even really know I mean, honestly, I wouldn't even want to talk about this thing at all, because that's giving even power to
Yeah,
it.
no, true. That's true.
But in some way, we don't even know if this is any worse than like a common cold or something.
Yeah, it's
and
like,
it could just be that the belief that it is,
yeah,
that makes like a placebo effect or a
sure.
nocebo effect.
Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah,
it is dangerous.
yeah, yeah. It's just a big like advertising campaign. It's just a big advertising campaign for the mainstream, for the media, for the medical industry. It's just like, don't worry, we've got it under control. We'll save you guys, and they're just seeing how many people they can kind of catch in that sort of narrative.
Yeah.
Like, how many people are willing to believe this? And it's like quite a bit. It's like, okay,
Yeah. And yeah, I'm telling you, like, I think if we just stopped even giving any power and attention to this thing, like, you would just, this is just a way of explaining it, but you would sort of align with a parallel universe where it doesn't exist anymore.
I agree.
Like, you would just go there.
I'm kind of in that universe. Like, even something like Corona,
Yeah.
like, it's everywhere. Everybody talks about it, and like, I still to this day, I'm just like, I barely even acknowledge that it's like a thing. Like, I just like barely even register that it even has any impact. Like, it's just like, no, it's just nothing. It's nothing. Everyone's like, oh, but it's Corona. Did you know that? Da, 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 da. I'm just like, nah, it's just nah. It'll be gone soon. Like, I don't. It's nothing. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. So yeah, man. No, that's cool. So
And you know, even in the thing is with quantum physics, we also sort of prove this on a scientific level as well. Because, well, first and foremost, there's like the Schrodinger's cat.
What's that?
Parable. It's the Schrodinger's cat.
How does that go?
Well, it's the cat which is both dead and alive at the same time.
Okay.
You know, like there's a box or a room, and there's a 50-50 chance that some trap will kill the cat in the room.
Yeah.
But we don't know what's happening in the room. It's only when we open the door and observe the effects when we know. So the idea is that before we observe, the cat is in a superposition. And the cat is both dead and alive at the same time.
That's right.
And it means that it's our observation which decides if the cat is dead or alive.
Yeah.
So this is the same with, for example, you can see a glass as half full or half empty. It's the same. The glass is exactly the same. But it's you who decides still how it is through your perspective, through your observation. And in this way, this is how you create reality. You're not necessarily creating it, but you are choosing a specific perspective. And then that's how it's gonna be. So you can choose to see the cat as dead or alive, or you can choose to see the glass as half empty or half full. And then that's gonna be how it is through your perspective.
Yeah, and yeah, like do you know Rupert Sheldrake? No, he talked about what he called morphic resonance. Yeah, and it's he talked about how there was like a residue, like there was like a residue from like a quantum field of residue that was like left from experience. So that's how he would talk about almost like you could kind of like store it in like the walls or something. If it was like you could maybe feel the energy of like a house that maybe you grew up in or something. There's like some morphic energy field that has kind of been left there. So that was interesting, and he was hanging out and like with like doing LSD and stuff, and really like looking deep into it. So that's an interesting idea.
Yeah, exactly. And this is like all confirming the shamanic view of the world in a scientific way, because, I mean, we understand that there can be like bad energy,
Yeah.
like a house or something, and then you have to clean it through a ritual act.
And it's all science just trying to catch up in some ways. Like in some ways, science is just catching up with the shamanic traditions, man. Dude, like that is some powerful stuff, man. Like even without like the plant medicine, like even without the plant medicine, the shamanic traditions are so powerful. They hold so like the tradition, the like the ceremonial aspect, like the kind of like the group dynamic, the songs, the intentions, all of that brought together over like millennia, thousands of years, and like these locations. So you can imagine these like energetic patterns have like been built up in these traditions through the centuries and millennia of like it's so interesting, and like the universe seems to respond to these types of things. I think like God seems to like respond to these happenings and speak through them. It's really interesting.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think shamans generally are people who are the same as a Buddha. So you have woken up really and can see sort of behind the scenes, and then you are creating, your own little universe or story or whatever. And for example, both with, for example, the Vikings, and then you have the Mongols as well. They were both based on sort of, I would argue, some we could say negative polarity shamans who sort of immortalized themselves through this certain culture and aesthetic, basically. Like it's a very, they were both people that were very prominent in history and had a lot of influence, and it was a way for a certain energy or a certain energetic pattern, certain aesthetic to spread essentially through the world, and also become sort of archetypal. Like we can talk about Viking as a sort of word, like it's a certain aesthetic archetype which is sort of immortalized nowadays. So, for example, what the Buddhists talk about is moving up to something called the crystal world, and that's sort of the archetypal world. So you see, for example, we could take someone like a famous writer, let's say like maybe Tolkien or someone, who has created a very specific mythology of his own. So he's sort of like a mini god, actually. He creates his own little universe. And it can become so maybe prominent that it becomes archetypal. So you can talk about, Tolkien style stories, so the bigger archetypal story creates more it inspires more stories. And then when people consume these stories, their consciousness will change in a certain way to that story, you know. So this is like a very, we could say it's a non-physical means of reproduction. So by creating a story or by being the influence of an entire people or culture, you know, you will reproduce yourself in a very, very like big way. That's much bigger than like a regular physical reproduction.
Yeah, and like it just carries on and makes movies. It's in books
Yes.
now. It's in video games. Like, and that's the thing. It's like life wants to like reproduce itself, and these patterns, they want to come about. It's like, and it's strange. Like, God just seems to kind of carry them on. He's just like, okay, here comes some Tolkien stuff. Oh, here comes the Mongols and the Vikings. Oh, interesting. Okay, here we go with the Viking idea. It's like, you know, and God just seems to, well, interesting. And it's like, that's just kind of God's sort of purpose. He just sort of like brings forth the energy and the life. And then these like little patterns and organisms and people and structures and energetic patterns sort of take that energy and take that life and build it into something else, into a story, into a movie, into a country. And you know, these are all just like ways to interpret reality, and like this, you know, it's interesting to discuss these things, and it's important, I think, that we're kind of doing that. And why, and I think part of what our current society is doing is we're kind of like neglecting that. We're kind of like we're like kind of like discouraging people to even do this kind of thing.
Yeah, at least on a deeper level. And I was just saying that I think most like shamans, for example, are aware of this, and they are like deliberately creating some specific thing into the world. You know?
Totally, absolutely, and they can even like send like kind of spells out into the world and like little like intentions.
I know in Siberia there are so many shamans that do this, so you know that they are really at odds with each other. So there are some shamans that are specialized in hunting down other shamans in like the spirit realm or something, and they are having all these wars there.
Yeah, man, dude.
Like even killing each other in their dreams or something.
Yeah,
you know?
Dude.
It's just crazy.
Dude, okay, yeah, man. Look, we have to get into this because we've been talking now like for like an hour and a half, and so I wanted to get on this topic a little bit before we're done here.
Oh yeah.
So, look, man. Here's the thing. Like, this is a real thing of shamans getting involved with other shamans usually in a non-physical realm. Sometimes it even spills over into the physical realm. I've heard stories of shamans like showing up at another shaman's like host they've never even met before in the physical world, and some guy just shows up and he's like, "Hey, what the fuck's going on here? You've been screwing with my shit in another dimension." So what's going on here? It's like an actual real thing that shamans can like play tricks on each other or sort of like interfere with each other's work, and it's a whole other ballgame. I don't know how much you know about that, but can you even just speak a little bit? Like, that is kind of a thing, right? Like,
yeah, well, I heard it's mostly like that in Siberia because there are so many there, but I guess generally like most are part of some tradition at least, so then you are at the same frequency a bit. You are sort of working together
Right.
with something. But I think the point is also that everyone is doing this all the time. Like,
Right.
you are all shamans, you are all
Right.
Jesus, you are all Buddha.
Right.
You are all doing this. It's just these are people who have woken up to the fact that they are doing it.
Aha.
That's the only difference, really.
Okay. Okay. And yeah. So like, what type of do you consider yourself as kind of part of a particular tradition? Like,
Well, I have dabbled in so many traditions, really, but it's mostly the Norse tradition. And it goes very deep. It's like some old astrology and even Hebrew stuff. I don't know. It's really weird, but there are like different tracks you can go on, and they all converge at certain points. And the more you see how they converge, actually. For example, I can just give you like one example. So in Norse shamanism, you have the runes, and you usually make like some rune magic with these runes, and just a common way to make like rune magic is to make bind runes. So you combine different runes into each other. And the runes are made in a specific way to be sort of inscribed in this spirit realm on the web of weird. It's the in Indra's net, But okay, so you have a rune called Gebo, which is just an X. Basically, it's like a cross, and it just signifies like giving things, like marriage is things coming together, like the cross. And then you have another rune called Vunjo, and it signifies joy and happiness and all this. So those are like maybe the most positive runes. So if you want something very positive, you can make a bind rune with Gebo, Vunjo, okay? Now Vunjo is then like a P. So you have an X rune and a P rune, and you want to combine them into one character. So what would that look like?
Like
what would the Gebo Vunjo bind rune look like?
An X and a
P.
And a P. Is it a fish or a cross or something, or?
Well, I'm just gonna say you will see this in a certain tradition that is not Norse shamanism. It's quite common, really.
An X and a P?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna write it down so I can see it. The X comes first?
Well, you're supposed to combine them in some way.
Okay, I see.
But maybe write the X and then the P above the X. The P, yeah. The P above the X.
Oh, okay. I think I've seen that before.
Yes. You have probably seen it before. So it's quite mind-blowing when you realize it. But
is that it? Like, oh, hold on.
Well, basically, yeah. Usually the P goes like into the X.
Okay.
But yeah, you will find this in Christianity.
Oh yeah, I've seen that before. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like that guy. It's like that guy right there. Yeah, I've seen that before.
Yeah.
Didn't Constantine put that on his shields and stuff?
Yeah, I think so.
And that's why he became Christian, right? something like that.
Yeah. So we don't really know this stuff, and again, it's just a matter of perspective. Like,
Mm.
is this just a coincidence or is it not? But I think this goes so deep, and these are just different systems that at some points converge.
Yeah, because all those like non-physical like entities, like they're going across time and across space. Like the Vikings can like sort of like interpret these symbols and these things. So can like the Christians. So can the like tribal peoples. That's why you get these same like patterns reemerging
Yeah,
on opposite ends of the world, because it's those are the patterns that exist in those other dimensions. So
yeah,
when we as people go into those other dimensions, we're all kind of seeing what's over there, and it's really nuts. Like I was um, I was watching like this interview with a guy who was a shaman, and he talked about how when he was in the jungle, he went to the Amazon jungle to learn, and the shamans would call each other. He basically described it as almost like using a cell phone, but they would speak to the spirit of a bird in the non-physical realm that had a really distinctive call,
yeah,
and then that spirit would then make the call through a physical bird. And so the other shaman, like way on the other side of the jungle, would hear that physical call, and he would like go into the non-physical realm and like be like, "Oh, okay," and call it back and stuff. And it seems that these things do seem to be possible, as absurd as it sounds.
yeah. It is quite absurd. I usually listen to geese
Okay.
uh, because they really move around the entire world.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Mostly in Siberia as well, where there are a lot of shamans, and the goose is one of the most important animals in Siberian shamanism.
Mm-hmm.
They usually use the geese sometimes as messengers.
Mm-hmm.
So I always have I always check the geese.
Oh, really? And do they have like are they carrying messages and stuff?
They might,
Ah!
not always,
Oh
not
god.
always.
So, man, it's a so have
And
yeah.
just just again, just to reconfirm this intersection between, for example, Norse shamanism and Christianity. Let's take the myth of Odin, for example.
Mm.
So, Christ was sacrificed by others on a cross, and he was impaled uh, in his side by a spear.
Mm.
Now, Odin, he hangs from a tree upside down, and he impaled himself with a spear in the side,
Mm.
then hang from the spear,
Mm.
And he's usually depicted as hanging upside down in a cross, right?
Mm.
Like he has his arms stretched to the sides, right,
Mm.
like a cross. But so it's a very obvious parallel, but it's also a reversal of the myth in some sense, because Odin actually does this to himself.
Mm.
Like he's the one who sacrifices himself. He stabs himself with the spear,
Mm.
and he actually sacrifices himself to himself.
Hmm.
He doesn't do it for anyone else, it's just for himself. So it's really a complete reversal of the Christ myth in some sense, but it also is the same.
Mm.
So it's incredibly interesting.
Mm. Yeah.
But I don't know if you are familiar with the law of one materials.
No. What is that?
I think that came out in like the 70s already or something, but it's someone who supposedly channeled Ra,
Okay.
who's like the Egyptian god.
Hmm.
Um, and then this god Ra really describes that these gods are really social memory complexes. So it's not really one being, but
Right.
it's a social memory complex. Right?
Yeah.
So it's a certain memory of a certain, energy which has been
Yeah.
then saved
Yeah.
in the universe somewhere, and you can sort of access it.
Yeah.
And in this case, it was Ra, who is the Egyptian god.
Hmm. Yeah.
But
Yeah. You can definitely
but anyway, what? Yeah, I just want to say one of the most important things that was described in this material is sort of how you can sort of ascend to a higher, they call this densities. It's like dimension or vibration or something. And you can ascend through positive polarity, which is service to others, or you can ascend through negative polarity, which is service to self. And basically, you need to polarize in one direction because, and actually in the Bible, Jesus says that give me hot or give me cold, but don't give me lukewarm. So, because lukewarm water is not so useful, but with hot and cold water, you can actually do more things. You can boil or you can freeze something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
yeah, man. Like,
and I think most people in society are very lukewarm. They are not polarizing really.
I know. It's like, yeah, like, what are we doing with all that? Like, it's weird. Like, when I, like, talking about these kind of subjects or in this kind of way, like, I don't even know what else I would be doing. Like, I don't even know how else I would want to engage with reality other than finding out what's really happening, getting involved with other people who want to do that too, and that's it. And things that aren't like that, like the mainstream media or these like crazy like corporations or all these ridiculous things, like it's like it's just nothing. Like once I realize that stuff's not real, I just don't want to be a part of it. Like I don't need that around me. It's like I remember you were telling me you went to some like United Nations on climate control or
yes,
some
climate conference.
Yeah, and it's like once you get there and you show up at some convention center in fucking Kiev or some shit, like it's like the World Conference on fucking climate change, and there's like 4,000 university students there, and like a couple politicians, and once you get there and you realize like, oh, this is basically just like a field trip for university students, and like an opportunity for some politician to get a photo with a bunch of university students.
Well, I mean, it's not really that. I mean, it is very serious. It's where all the politicians come and discuss. But I mean, it is complete bullshit.
Yeah.
It's just absolute garbage.
This is fucking nonsense.
Yeah, no. Horrible.
It's like nobody there really wants to do anything fucking productive.
No. It's just a bunch of businessmen really pretending to be
Yeah.
environmentally conscious when they are obviously not, you know.
No, they're like making deals about pipelines and fucking getting oil reserves and shit, and like
Yeah,
they're just like,
yeah,
oh,
I
here's
know.
some universities. Like, oh, by the way, we're gonna save the world anyway. What's the oil deal we're doing?
Yeah, but anyway, just to finish my
Yeah, man.
point with the law of one material, it's that in this law of one material, you know, Ra, who is the sort of much higher social memory complex, they are very confused about this negative and positive polarity because they say that service to others is service to self,
I agree.
and that service to self is service to others, because the more you yourself are improved, like the more you think about yourself, the more you can then help others.
I agree with
And the
that.
more you help others, the more they can help you. So
Yeah.
you get better. So it's the same thing.
Yeah, I agree with that.
There's no difference. There really.
It's all God, right? You're all serving that same entity. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just found this parallel to like the Christ and Odin myth, that they are completely different, but they are also exactly the same at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they were both impaling themselves, getting impaled.
Yeah. And one did it for others, another did it for himself, but it's still the same thing.
Why did Odin do it again?
He did it for his own, like,
he wanted
spiritual knowledge and his own power, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's cool, man. Like, I mean,
but the more powerful you are, the more you can help others. So
that's right.
It's the same thing.
That's right. Yeah, it is. Like, it's like that with like making money too. Like you hear people talk about that, like people who learn about creating wealth, because money is like a spiritual. It can be like a spiritual undertaking in a way. A lot of people who become wealthy are like, I need, God wants me to be wealthy so that I can help a lot of people, because I think I have the best way to use these resources. So of course I need to be wealthy. I like that mentality. That's cool.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with money, really. I think people are too obsessed with it, but
that's true.
I mean, it's really it's a manifestation of energy.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you can do great things with money. There's nothing wrong with money.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like money is like this. It's like this this vibrational frequency that we're like tuning into, and like you can I think there's even like different kinds of frequency, different kinds of money in poker. Like, I'm not a gambler, but I don't play poker, but I've heard poker guys talk about how when someone's playing with what they call like scared money, so they're like trying to hold on to their money, they don't want to lose it. It's like it's almost like the guy can't win. He's like, even if he has $1 million, it's like he's playing with scared money, and it's just a free for all. It's weird, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, man. Okay, so yeah, we covered a bit. So you've got now your own kind of YouTube channel. I saw you've got a few videos on there.
Yeah, I really recently started because I thought I should do something, and
yeah, man,
there seems to be interest in these kind of matters for sure. So
totally, yeah, man. No, that's cool.
I think I know quite a lot. So
yeah, oh yeah, you know a lot about that kind of stuff, and yeah, I'd be interested to hear some more, like maybe about some of your shamanic practices as well, because that's something that I've gotten interested in over the past year. Like now working with the ayahuasca medicine, like that's been like turned me on to a lot more like ideas and more just opened my mind so much to like opportunities and like yeah, it's just really a cool thing to be to be working with. And so I have a huge I'm in total amazement for the shaman. Like it's amazing thing that they're able to do. Like it's incredible. But yeah.
Yeah, I really been moving on to singing mostly actually.
Okay, like do you sing the Icarus songs or?
Yeah, well, it becomes very, in the moment, like it
Yeah,
just becomes whatever it is,
yeah, yeah,
and usually with drum.
yeah. Okay, cool.
And I found that extremely powerful because you are literally creating these vibrations inside your body and sending them out there, and it's coming back to you and everything.
Yeah, and d- like does like ayahuasca the spirit she responds to those songs, right? Like she really likes those songs in a way, right? That's her language almost, right?
Yeah, there is a specific um, a language associated with different things. Like with ayahuasca, it's maybe it's South American, so
Right.
it's more that kind of rhythm and songs.
Huh.
But it will maybe not fly so well with some other things.
Huh. Man.
Like you don't want to play those South American songs maybe in Mongolia or something. It's not.
Right.
It's not the same energy really.
Right. Okay, I see. Because that would be kind of weird. Like that spirit's not really there in a way.
But you could bring a part of that new thing there, and it could like mix it a bit. It could
Right.
become something
Right.
new.
Uh huh.
And that could be very, very interesting.
Uh huh. Oh man, it's a lot going on out there, man. Holy.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think what we have seen in the recent years, I think it's a lot more mixing of things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you see, before things mix, they have to be polarized.
Mm.
So they have to differentiate.
Mm.
Like, for example, if you are a, you know, like fetus without a sex, without a gender,
Mm.
you can't really mix so much with another fetus because you are identical.
Mm-hmm.
So you actually have to polarize into two different things, like male and female. Then you can actually interact in more interesting ways, which I'm sure you know.
Ah.
but this principle goes with other things.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have seen a lot of the Western people go down to the jungle, go down to the Amazon to start to learn those traditions. And in a way, it is kind of being brought back up to the Western society in a way. And so it is kind of mixing. Like those traditions are being like rejuvenated with people coming from like the Western mentality are now going down and working with those traditional peoples and their like Amazonian traditions, and now they're bringing it back and they're on podcasts and YouTube and everything, and it's becoming this new thing, which I think it almost is becoming a new tradition, like a modern 21st century plant medicine tradition is kind of merging a few of these different things, which is really interesting.
Yeah, it's really important to get it the internet and social media, because I really don't like social media, and I have been avoiding it, but I also now see that it is important and that I should use it. So this is why I have started to make a YouTube channel and a website and all this.
Yeah, yeah, I'm the same. It's like it's really like a mixed bag. It's like there's an element of like real kind of pointlessness to a lot of it, which I think we all see, and we can all see that. Like it's a lot of it is fake. A lot of it is kind of people being mean to each other, and that is the reality of it. And so I hear you. I try. I don't like to look at Instagram. I don't want to look at Twitter. I don't think it's productive. But on the other hand, it's like, oh, but there's also so many other people like you and I are doing this, and many other people like Joe Rogan, all these guys, all this stuff, where we can learn so much and we can connect with other people and we can offer so much. So I'm the same as you. I'm like, oh, okay, I can kind of get involved in a way that makes sense for me, which is cool.
Yeah, and I I just one thing. It's like, for example, with the Dalai Lama.
Mm,
He made a comment on Westerners that want to become like Buddhist monks or something, and
mm,
like there's really nothing wrong with that, but it's also that they also understand that these different systems are complete in their own way. So
mm,
it's also that we in the West should also focus on our systems. You know,
mm.
like we don't need to be Buddhist because we understand the same thing in a different way.
Yeah, that's true.
Even with quantum physics, as I explained,
Mm.
we can understand the same thing. So it's also important to focus on your own thing.
That's a good point. That's a good point because it's kind of like maybe this is a good place. We can start to wrap up here soon, but this is a good place because it goes all the way back to the beginning, where you talked about going up north with the Sami people. Yes, they had some good ideas, and yes, it was interesting to be there with the reindeer. But at the end of the day, still have to kind of deal with your own perspective, and that's sort of what the Dalai Lama is saying. It's like, yeah, great. It's great to come here to Tibet and sit in the mountains and meditate and stuff. But it's like, you guys in the West have your own traditions.
Yeah.
And you guys can fix those and improve upon those and have a lot to provide from that, too. It's not showing up in Tibet with your fucking prayer flag doesn't all of a
Yeah,
sudden
no.
make you enlightened.
No, that's true. And again, like you can find this enlightenment like anywhere, like and it's where you are right now. You don't need to go to Tibet
That's
or
right.
even Amazonas. Like you can find it right here.
That's
right
right,
now.
man. And that is the truth. And like, why not start where you are with what you have and go from there. And it really is the truth, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. Okay, that's cool. So that's what's going on. You got anything else coming up, or are you planning any more excursions to the woods, or are you gonna hang for a little bit where you're at, or?
Well, right now things are kind of difficult with the corona situation.
Yeah.
I mean, I still have to acknowledge that
Yeah, it's like
fact in some sense.
yeah. I
But
mean, it's like it's still hard to go to another country. It's still hard to go to another city, like you know.
yeah, and I would also like to teach yoga, for example, and stuff.
That'd be cool.
Because I'm a teacher.
Oh,
I'm
really?
also
Oh,
a
I didn't know
teacher
that. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
yeah, I'm a yoga teacher and I'm a teacher in Qigong and Tai Chi.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. That's cool. Yeah, I've heard
Yeah.
really good things about qigong and tai chi. Like,
I think I prefer those to yoga actually.
yeah, no, I've heard awesome
Mm.
things about that. Like, that's cool, man.
So I'm offering online lessons, but it's it's a bit
something.
difficult as well.
It's a start. You know what I mean? Like it's a start. Like you're kind of you're just getting used to this kind of online space. Like same with me. Like I'm just starting to get used to it. But it's kind of interesting, and it's all part of the journey. And I'm sure more opportunities will come. Maybe more people. You'll meet more people on here. Whatever. So.
Yeah, I think at some level I want to be a bit more grounded and,
Mm,
maybe realistic, but
mm,
at the other point, I also know I am creating everything I see. I can like be a shaman and
mm,
really, you know, what I care about most is maybe because I understand that someday I will grow up to create my own universe.
mm,
We will grow up to become like God
mm,
eventually.
mm,
And the question is that what will you create then?
mm,
So
mm,
that's like my main idea almost.
mm.
I just want to create something really cool.
Yeah. No. Totally. Yeah, right. And why not get a little more grounded? Because if you know you're going to be creating your own universe, it's like, okay, that's cool. Let's kind of put the foundation in now so that that becomes something cool. So, no, I can definitely dig that, man.
Because there really is no death.
No, yeah, no, it's for sure.
You won't die. It just continues
Oh
forever.
yeah, oh yeah, that was very clear to me. That became very clear to me that it's the game carries on. It's a much larger cycle. We're part of a huge undertaking, and yeah, man, no, it keeps going along, and that's why we're here. We're doing our work now. You know what they say: the grass is not green on the other side. It's green where you water it. Like we just start watering the grass right now. Like just water that grass.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool, man.
So what about you? What are
Um,
you up to?
well, I was planning to go to another ayahuasca ceremony over the weekend. This weekend that just
Oh,
went by, I guess. Yeah, and it was unfortunately canceled because of this whole Corona
yeah,
hysteria.
yeah,
So that's okay. Like I was begin the diet. I had begun the dieta, and I was ready to go. And I was looking forward to that because it had been a while. It had been since July, since my last ceremony, which was really incredible. Two ceremonies back to
yeah,
back, where I had really drank like a really full glass, because I felt I was ready for that.
yeah.
And so I had a huge, experience during that time. And yeah, as it is, and then it takes time to kind of like integrate these lessons and sort of the things unfold over time. So, that was cool.
Mm.
Uh,
And
um,
I really think these are like great tools for most people to expand their consciousness. But again, I also wouldn't give all this power to something that is outside you, which drug also is.
yeah, yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair enough, right? That's a good point. Like,
And I do think that this corona situation it's putting us in a position where we have to look inside, and not actually
mhm.
go outside or
Maybe that was part of
interact
the
with other people. So
yeah, maybe that was part of the lesson, eh?
yeah, it might be for sure.
That may have been part of the lesson, right? Which was like, yeah, you know what? Like, fine enough to work with this medicine, but like, maybe it's like you can work with a lot on your own, right? And that may have been the lesson, and that's okay too. Like, so I'll work with that. I'll work with that lesson that it's given me by not participating, and sometimes that is the lesson, right?
And you can still like fast and stuff,
Totally,
even
yeah.
just because. So.
Yeah, exactly. The instant I got the email, it wasn't on. I just started eating tons of food again, right? So, so it's like, yeah, you know what? Maybe that's part of it. So you're probably right with that. So I should probably take on some of those lessons, like, indeed, and like, and not rely so much on the medicine, perhaps, because who knows? Soon when you're there, it's just going to be teaching you those same things anyway. It's like, bro, what are you doing? Like, you didn't need me to tell you all this. So,
Yeah, I mean, depends if you need it or not.
hmm, interesting. It's a
But,
very interesting thing, but so yeah, man. So that what else? I was wanting to go to travel a little bit somewhere, like maybe go to like a Toronto or something, like a bigger city here in Canada, but all this stupid corona stuff, I don't know. It's just, what can you even do? I don't know if you're allowed to go places or what all's going on. So I'm just sitting here. I'm going to invest some of my money like into like investments and stuff, because there's nothing I can really like spend it on hardly. So I'm just like, oh, I'll just try to invest it, you know.
oh yeah, you should invest in solar power, I think.
That's a good idea. Yeah, that's smart.
And do you know Neo?
What's
It's
that?
a new it's a new electric car brand,
Okay, interesting.
and I have made like thousands on these investments in like just like a month or something. Like it's
Really?
insane. Yeah,
And what do you invest, just online, like on an investment platform?
yeah. I've been using eToro actually.
Okay. Oh,
It's
Ether?
eToro.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, yeah.
That's like super super simple to use.
Yeah, yeah, no, I have like one on my phone, like oh, that's interesting. Yeah, well, good for you, man, if that's working. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think solar power and electric cars are gonna be really huge.
Yeah,
I
I
know,
would.
for example, Honda released a electric car model and stuff,
Mm,
and I know they are also like, for example, Honda. They've been really investing in the 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 Formula F1 games. The racing.
mm,
Uh, what do you call it in English?
like Formula One?
Yeah, Formula One. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
But
interesting.
now they're gonna stop that and they're gonna invest in like sustainable technology instead.
Hmm.
So these big car companies are making these shifts to electric, for example.
Hmm.
So that's really gonna be the huge thing really soon.
Hmm. Well, no, that's good. That's probably the way forward. Um, yeah, man. So that's kind of what I'm doing. Like, yeah, just reading like books, like lots of books, and listening to lots of podcasts. I'm trying to learn about like making money, like more about business and making money like online. Like, how is that possible? Like, how does that work? So I'm
Yeah, it's same with me really.
Yeah, yeah, because I realize now it's like I need to be able to create my own income and have like a passive income or income streams, so I don't have to rely like on my like random job that I have to like go and like physically work at my job. Like, it's just kind of like, what's the point of this? Like, you can never get anywhere. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so
No, the internet is really important to
yeah,
connect with.
yeah,
So
totally. So I'm just like remaining open, like I'm listening to things. I'm just looking at ideas, like, I'm trying to remain open to different opportunities, and so yeah, that's what's going on. And yeah, I'm gonna have another guy on, a Canadian guy, I think sometime next month or the beginning of December soon, and he makes money online. I think he does like advertising. He builds like advertising campaigns for companies and stuff
okay,
like that. So it's just interesting. I'm interested to talk to more people who are like know how to do that, because it is possible, right? Like,
so that sounds interesting for sure.
yeah, totally. So like keep an eye out. You're subscribed to my channel, so keep an eye out for when that comes out, and you'll get it. And there was one other thing I wanted to. If you want to send me your mailing address, I want to send you a copy of this because I printed this book off.
Oh, you written a book?
Yeah, it's like
oh, nice.
Yeah, it's 81 like verses, like kind of like short little passages, and it's kind of based upon the Tao. Like it's based upon the Tao Te Ching, so it's my own personal like interpretation. So yeah, you send me your mailing address, and I'll send it over to you, and you just let me know what you think, if any of them speak to you, whatever.
Yeah, no, that sounds really, really great.
Yeah.
I would also like to write someday.
Yeah, like why not, right? Like I just kind of kept track of some things and ideas, and it was like a slow process, and I just like contacted like a local print shop. I just print off like whatever, like 20 copies at a time or something. It's just like, it's just good to have something like tangible that you can kind of like have in your hand, and it's like, oh, this is what I'm working on, or like this is what I'm doing. You know what I mean? It's like I just like that idea, right?
Yeah. No, I would love to accept it. I mean,
yeah, totally.
I think it's going to be a bit expensive for you to send it to Europe. So
I think I can have it sent for free, actually, because my brother, he works at FedEx.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think I can just give it to him in a envelope, and I think he can send it for free. So I'm pretty sure.
Because otherwise, you can send it in, digital format, and I can maybe print it out or something.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah, that might actually make more sense. If he can't send it for free, I'll just email it to you, and you can check it out.
Yeah, that's great. I would love to see it.
Yeah, that'd be cool, man. Okay, cool, man. So yeah, that's what's happening. I'll keep an eye out for some more vids. You're just kind of putting out some vids when you sort of like come up with an idea or whatever, or you sort of feel.
Well, I have a lot of ideas.
Yeah.
It's more time. Like I'm making one video right now, and I could make like 100 videos. I just need the time and energy to do it. Really.
Totally. Well, that's cool, man. I'll keep an eye out for your stuff, and I'll put a link down below for Klaus's channel. I pronounced the name of it. I couldn't pronounce it.
Yeah, I named it Ea Enki. It's named after a Babylonian god.
Okay. Cool, man. Well, that's cool. And if you ever, if you ever want me to do a guest spot on your channel or something, like I'll be more than happy to. If you.
Sure, we could do that. I think once I have grown my channel a bit.
Yeah, take your time, man. Whenever you're ready. Okay, cool, man. Well, that's probably good for today. We've done a good chunk.
Yeah.
And let's keep in contact, man, and we'll maybe try to do another one, maybe in the new year or something, and see what 2021 brings us, man.
Yeah, maybe, because I always make this like divination for every year.
Yeah.
And yeah, we will have this crazy astrological event now at the 21st of December.
Oh, really?
I think I talked about that, but because yesterday it was a full moon.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And it was a lunar eclipse, actually.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that, but that's cool.
But now on the 14th, it's a full solar eclipse. That's when the new moon is.
I see.
And then on the 21st, it's grand conjunction. And that's at the midwinter solstice. Exactly. So it's really insane.
Cool, man.
Everything that's happening.
Yeah, dude. And then the new year's coming up.
Yeah, I think I think it's gonna be lighter for sure.
I think so too, man. Oh yeah, for sure. It's definitely moving in that direction.
Because it's gonna switch from the earth element to the air element.
Oh yeah, things are lightening up for sure. I mean, we've been through just dark, dense period. Like it's definitely we're coming through it. I believe that in 2021, 2022. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Like all planets were in Capricorn this year, so it was
Chaos.
yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, man. Well, yeah, let's wrap it up. And thanks for coming on, man. It's been a pleasure. It's always a good
Yeah,
enlightened.
thank you so much for having me. I think it's great to have these chats every now and then.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure, man. Okay, dude. Well, yeah, thanks for coming on, and let's talk soon. All right.
Sure. Okay, take care, man.
Okay, man. See you, bro.
Yeah, bye bye.